Hey guys, Coach Hunter here. This video is going to be about kind of theory. Okay, I know, don't stop the video right away. Okay, it won't be.
Now I'm just gonna say more subs from the heel hook and people watch it.
Yeah, there you go. I know, like, you know, submission techniques and like big throws and takedowns or whatever. Usually not. People don't like training takedowns; they like watching them. They're more exciting. But I wanted to talk a little bit about like what jiu-jitsu or grappling is, and like how I understand it, and how some other people, like notable grappling thinkers, understand grappling and jiu-jitsu more broadly, at least in some little bit of detail. Okay, and understand that, guys. Your understanding of jiu-jitsu will not be exactly the same as mine. You know, everyone like has their own game, their own jiu-jitsu, their own like understanding of the world, and so, you know, at first you probably will borrow that from your instructor, but I encourage you to explore on your own. If you feel differently about something, that's okay. It's not necessarily wrong, just that, you know, you have a different mind, a different way of looking at the world and at the sport itself, because it's a complicated sport. There's a lot of ways to do it, a lot of strategies, a lot of like styles. So all right, I did actually take notes on this one. So, you know, just know that it's going to change. It's going to change over time. Well, for me, like when I started out, I thought of grappling as like a set of moves, right? A set of techniques. I do this technique, and then you do this technique to counter it. I counter your counter, back and forth until one of us wins. Okay? You can look at it that way. I now think of grappling as a method of control. How to control your opponent, and then more importantly, control yourself. Control your own movement toward a very specific end. Okay? The end being, of course, victory broadly, but more particularly controlling your opponent so that there's no chaos. Striking is something that there's inherent chaos, but really good strikers will control their movement and their opponent's movement such that they're in less danger. Okay, they know exactly what can come at them, what strikes are available for their opponent that are dangerous, and how to mitigate that. Same thing for you in grappling. You control your opponent through a series of wedges, simple machines using your body typically, okay, and pinning techniques to control their movement and limit their options to a certain set of known things, okay? At this position, maybe they can only bridge. In this position, they can only shrimp. And then you have solutions for that, to control that movement, and opportunities are created to finish the fight either with submission technique or just by controlling them as long as you need to. Striking, whatever it is, depending on the sport. So, John Danaher, famous jiu-jitsu mind, if you're not familiar with him, you can take him up. He's done a lot of interviews, podcasts, like the Joe Rogan podcast, and he laid out a 5-step method, okay, for what jiu-jitsu or grappling is. People are most dangerous on their feet, so you take them off their feet, okay, you put them on their back somehow, take down whatever it is. Then, often, they'll be putting themselves legs first, so they're trying to employ their legs against you. Their legs, of course, being the most powerful muscles in your body, so you have to escape the legs. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3 is to establish control from a dominant position, because control isn't guaranteed, it isn't given. Okay, if you watch street fighting videos, and I'm a fan of them, you see people get in the mount, and then their opponent just kind of rolls over, and they both roll, right, for no reason. They're just rolling around, back and forth, mount, back and forth. You know, it's silly, but they just don't know any better. Okay, they're not establishing control. 4 would be to then proceed to through another series of improving your position, and then 5 is finishing the fight with some kind of submission hold. Okay, so guys, you know, and this is like gonna sound all philosophical on you, but a little navel gazing maybe. But Sun Tzu said it really well. Okay, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle, right? You know, you need to understand your own strengths and weaknesses and what you're good at, and maybe what your opponent is, okay? And that's often, that understanding comes from exposure to the enemy, okay? If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat, okay? If you're good, know what you're good at, it's kind of a crapshoot then, right? You have to understand what you're good at first. And then finally, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Just saying that, like, you have to understand what your opponent is trying to do also. Okay, that takes time, it takes experience, but I think it's very helpful. Okay? I think the next part of it is also learning how to conceal what you're attempting to do. I think at first it's very common to just grab an arm and try to rip it off, okay? It's very obvious, and as someone who's been grappling for a long time is going to very easily defeat that attack, okay? Going back to Sun Tzu, all warfare is based on deception, okay? Grabbing their arm for the armbar might just be the first move in a sequence of different attacks. You know that maybe they're going to try to rip their arm away. That gives you options. What are those options, okay? Think of all the contingencies for defeating your armbar. What can you use from that, okay? And then that creates a system. And this is kind of how I currently think in a micro level about jiu-jitsu, is a series of systems, okay? Sometimes you're in your opponent's system. You know, they're working their heel hook game on you, okay? You need to defeat their system and get back to yours, okay? Maybe your system is that system. Hey, they're attacking me with heel hooks, great, it means I can attack my own, okay, counter it within the system. So it gets very complicated, and show you I'm big into stationery if you haven't noticed, but I have a lot of different journals, and I'll get more into that in a subsequent video about learning, how to learn effectively. But I think of systems like this as a flow chart. Some beginning point, say ashigarami. I don't know if you can see that well.
Come a little closer. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. We then can flow to another position, outside ashi, okay, around, reverse mount, or reverse ashi, inside senkaku or inside triangle, and all these different positions, but the goal is the ankle lock finish here in the center. We have different ways of flowing to that based on my opponent's reaction, okay? It may seem complicated, but I didn't start with this whole thing. This chart wasn't made for me. I built it by thinking about, okay, I have this move. Where does that lead to? Okay, this move over here leads to this move over here. Okay, now we have a relationship between these two things. And how did I get there? It's because they postured. Okay, when they posture, I go from here to here. When after this move, maybe they're going to, turn their shoulders, or they're going to pull their arm away, and that leads to the next move, right? We should have systems that allow us to flow between different movements. So think about what you do on the mats, and how does that relate to each other? At least that's how I think about it. You may have a completely different method, and that's cool. I want to hear about it, guys. If this sounds like crazy talk to you, or if it sounds like, hey, I want to learn more about this, I'm happy to share. I'm pretty open. Okay, probably won't post all of my stuff in a public format, but I'm happy to talk to you about it. So, guys, let me know what you think. If you think I'm getting too academic about it for you, but I think the fun part, of course, is taking this stuff and trying it out in real life and actually getting to use it on the mats. I know it's like rubbing salt in the wound right now because none of us can do that, but it's, I think, really nice to at least be thinking about it and get those mental reps in. It's just as important, guys, as actually getting into the gym and doing it physically. So try it out, guys. See what works for you. Let me know in the comments or with direct message what you think about what we're talking about and how you think about the martial arts. All right, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you on the mats.